Hey guys, Rusmero here, and today we're going to be opening the first two starter decks of the brand new physical Shadowverse Evolve card game by Cygames and Bushiroad. On the left, we have Starter Deck 1, Beautiful Fairy Princess featuring the Elf class and Forestcraft. On the right, we have the second start deck, Resentful Sword Demon featuring the Royal class or Swordcraft. So why don't we go in numerical order and start with Elf. On the deck, we have a card list with some product information, and I really like this mark here, which you guys can see some of the cards have a circle and some don't. This indicates which cards are limited to the starter deck. It looks like there is quite a lot of stuff inside, so let's see. Okay, it looks like there's this package over here with a bunch of accessories, counters, tokens, and stuff like that. And what's over here should just be the deck itself. Oh, you can actually pop it open like this. That's pretty nice. Then you can kind of use it as like an additional deck case. And here we go. I believe this should be the main deck over here. And these are probably the miscellaneous cards. And I assume maybe the... No, EP cards as well, and the leader. So the Evolve deck should be inside here as well. As for this package over here, let's see what's inside. Okay, what in the world is this? Oh, this is probably a life marker. That is very nice. Now this is real nifty and convenient, and it goes all the way up to 30 life and of course down to the bottom with 0. Kind of reminds me of when I first played Buddy Fight for the first time and got those life markers from the start decks. Okay, what else is there? I believe this should be a play... Oh, it's a quick manual, but I believe that if we flip it open, it should be a play sheet. Oh no, it's not. It's just the entire manual. Ah, and that's because we have the play sheet over here. Oops, okay. Well, that's very nice to see, because this will be very helpful for beginners, myself included. I mean, I do know of digital Shadowverse, and I kind of... Although I've never actually played it myself, I do kind of know how to play it. But this is still going to be very much a new experience for me. Okay, why don't I lay it down and use it as the backdrop? Okay, so in the middle we have the field and EX area. On the right, your leader, your deck, and your graveyard. And on the extreme right, we have your play points, your mechs, and your current values. Basically, your mana or energy for playing the game for those who have don't know anything about Shadowverse. And on the left, your Evolve deck, or basically kind of like your extra deck, and your Banish Zone at the bottom left over there. And finally, we have two sheets of counters. The one on the right seems to just have increases and decreases for attack and health values, or I think they call it defense in English. And on the left here we have a few more attack and defense markers, and these two circles over here, I assume that they are basically used to mark your current level of energy for both the current amounts and the max amounts as well. And over here, these seems to be skill markers, although since I've never played Shadowverse before, I'm not really sure what they mean, but this seems to be like Guardian or Ward, Targeted Attack, Sure Kill, or I guess something like Death Touch to use terminology from other games. This seems to be Pressure, this is Aura, and this is Drain. But I guess we'll find out more about these as we open the starter decks. Okay, let's start by taking a look at the miscellaneous cards. First, we have our leader card, Arisa, to represent Elf or Forestcraft. And I'm not sure if you guys will be able to see, but she is not printed like a typical card. Like, she is much thicker, kind of almost like a piece of cardboard, and I think that's a nice touch to differentiate her from the rest of the regular cards in your deck. And also her back seems to be white in color for that further differentiation as well. So let's put her in the leader slot. Next, we have many copies of this fairy over here, which seems to be a token. So similar to Yu-Gi-Oh! And other card games, she can probably be played by various effects in the deck. Just like the leader Arisa, to differentiate her from the main deck cards, she's actually printed quite thickly as well. As you guys can see, this is the thickness of a normal Shadowverse Evolve card, and I mean typically any normal trading card game card, and you guys can see the difference over here. Okay, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 fairies. It looks like we'll be summoning a lot. So why don't we put them in the EX area? I think that's where they belong. And finally, we have 3 EP or Evolve point cards. The player that goes second starts the game with 3 of these, and once per turn when doing your evolution, you are allowed to use 1 to help pay the evolution cost. Okay. So those should be all of the additional cards, but at this moment, why don't we just take a look at the card back? There's not much to say here. I really like it. It's both simple and cool at the same time, and I just love the design of the Shadowverse logo over there in the center. Okay, let's put this maybe to the side over here so that we can put the rest of the cards there we're looking at. And let's move into the actual deck. So just to give a very quick breakdown for those unfamiliar to Shadowverse Evolve, top left is the cost, and basically the logo behind the cost is the class of the card, and you can only use cards with the same class as your leader unless they are neutral. This is the attack 5 and the defense 5, the name, the type of the card, and the card's various races. In this case, Fairy Princess Aria has both the Fairy and the Princess races. And of course, here is the rarity, LG being Legend Rare, I believe, and the effect text over here. So first, this boss card of the Elf deck, Fairy Princess Aria, has the Ward keyword ability, which, during the opponent's turn, forces the opponent to attack this tapped card whenever they declare an attack. Also, in order to facilitate this in Shadowverse Evolve, at the end of your turns, you may choose to tap any number of your followers with the Ward ability. And this is great because normally you can only tap your follower when using it for an attack, but Shadowverse is a game with summoning sickness, so followers cannot attack the turn they are played. Next, while this card is in play, all of your other fairy followers gain rush, which means they can attack enemy followers the turn they are played. Finally, on Fanfare, which means this effect triggers when this card is played, out of 9 fairies, summon any number to the field and place any number into your EX area. So by fairy, they're referring to the 10 tokens that come with this effect, and basically the point of this effect is that in Shadowverse Evolve, there is actually a limit to the number of cards you can have on the field. On the field, your max limit is 5, and in the EX area, that's another 5. So let's say currently your field is completely empty and you play Orisa, so now you have a total of 9 fairies to play with, right? You can put 4 of them on the field, capping it out in 5, and then take the remaining 5 and put them in your EX area. But what is the point of this? From my understanding, the EX area is essentially kind of like a revealed secondary hand. So all of the fairies you put here, later on when there's space on the field, you can play them as if they are from the hand for their 1 cost. That's pretty interesting, so I guess in this game you have to be cautious about the field limit and what cards you choose to put on the board. But if you think about it, since Yu-Gi-Oh! Has 5 monster zones, it's kind of the same, right? Okay, so we have a total of 3 copies of Orisa. That's the max number of the copies of a card you can have in your Shadowverse deck, so it is very nice that the starter decks give you max copies of the boss. Next, we have an Amulet, Titania Sanctuary. An Amulet is basically kind of like a Nexus from Battle Spirits, or like a field spell that you basically put on the field and then it applies some sort of effects while it's around. While this card is in play, all of your fairy tokens gain direct attack, which means they can even attack your opponent's untapped followers. Whenever your fairy token comes into play, give it +1/+1, and on Fanfare, give all of your fairy tokens +1/+1. No wonder this is a gold rare. That is some insane synergy with the Fairy Princess's effect. So far, this deck is kind of giving me like Neo Nectar vibes, where you basically swarm the field with your tokens, power them up, and then dominate your opponents. Okay, so we have 3 copies of the Sanctuary. Next, we're moving into silver rares. Rose Garden Keeper, for 1 cost, you can evolve her. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, I guess the evolve versions will be at the back of the deck. Waltz Fairy, on Fanfare and Last Words, place a fairy token in your EX area. So Last Words means this effect triggers when this follower is destroyed. So by summoning her, you get a fairy, and when she's destroyed, you get another one. Pretty good. 1, 2, and 3 of that. Okay, I'm really liking the ratios. Fairy Caster. On Fanfare, play 3 fairies up to the limit of your field and place any extra in your EX area. That's nice. 1, 2, and 3 of him. Dude, literally all the cards have been like 3 of so far, right? Metal Elf Mage. On Fanfare, choose 1 enemy follower and give it 1 damage. But on Combo 3, deal it 3 damage instead. So Combo is a keyword effect that triggers if you have played at least a specified number of cards this turn, including this card. So when you play Metal Elf Mage, if this is at least the 3rd card you've played this turn, she deals 3 damage instead of just 1. That's not bad, and if you have a lot of fairies in your EX area, each fairy is only 1 cost to play, so it quite easily allows you to reach the combo. 2, just 2 of her. Next, we have Okami. Literally, Great Wolf. When your other follower comes into play, this card gets +1/+1. That stat increase is permanent, by the way. Permanent stat changes are something we usually only see more of in digital card games, where it's easier to track the values. No wonder they gave us so many stat change tokens. And since your fairy tokens are treated as followers, this guy can potentially explode pretty big. 2. And next we have Treants, my favorite kind of nature card. You can evolve this card for 2 cost, and on Combo 3, this card's evolve cost becomes 0. Interesting. 2 and 3 Treants. Water Fairy can be evolved for 2 cost, and on Last Words, place a fairy in your EX area. 1, 2, 3. That's a pretty nice starting follower to play when you have only 1 cost. This Wandering Elf has direct attack and has the ability to ignore ward. Sounds pretty powerful. My kind of offensive card. 3 of that. And here we're finally moving into spells. Fairy Circle. For 1 cost, put 3 fairies in your EX area. Wow. 1, 2. This is an amulet, Woodland Sanctuary. On Fanfare, choose one of your fairy followers and give it +1 defense. And during your main phase, by paying 1 cost and tapping this card, you can return it to your hand, so you can then play it again. Nice. 1, 2. Sylvan Justice. This is a spell with the quick keyword, so it can be played during the opponent's turn, just like a trap at specific timings. Specifically, when your opponent declares an attack with their follower or during their end phase. Choose 1 enemy follower, deal it 3 damage, and then place a fairy in your EX area. Quite interesting. 2 and 3 copies. And now you guys will immediately notice that this card looks a bit different from the ones we've seen so far, because these Elf Forestcraft cards have like this green border around the name and this leaf mark on the top left. But this Goblin over here looks very grey, and that's because he's a neutral card, so he can be played in any deck regardless of your leader. For 1 cost, 2/2, and can be evolved for 4 cost. 1, 2. A 1 cost neutral quick spell, Angel Snipe. Choose 1 enemy follower and deal it 2 damage. 1, 2 copies of that. Next, Angel Barrage, another quick neutral spell. Deal 1 damage to all enemy followers. Oh my god, I would hate having that used against me playing this Forestcraft deck. Okay, so that is all for the main deck. I believe these remaining 10 cards here are the Evolve deck. The Evolve forms of some of the cards we saw earlier that they'll turn into after you play the Evolve cost. Rose Garden Keeper. On Evolve, choose 1 enemy follower, return it to the hand. And combo 3, draw 1 card. 1, 2, 3 copies of her. I guess you'll probably match the number of copies of the pre-Evolve versions. The Evolve Treants is just a beater with 5/5. 3 copies of that. Next, Water Fairies Evolve. On Evolve, play a fairy, and last words, place a fairy in your EX area. 1, 2, 3. And our final card is an Evolve Goblin, which is just a vanilla 4/4. And that'll be all for the Elf Forestcraft deck. Next, let's open Starter Deck 2, Resentful Sword Demon. I don't want to take up too much of your time because I'll be going into the effects, gameplay, and rules in more detail in my tutorial matches, so let's skip what we already know and just get into the effects. It looks like everything is pretty much the same. Starting with the miscellaneous cards, first we have the leader, Erica, and then some knight tokens that seem to be pretty much the same as the fairy tokens, except that they are of the soldier race. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of him. And followed by a Steel Knight, who is just a bit stronger at 2/2/2, but also the soldier race. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of him as well, and our 3 EP cards. So it looks like our boss card this time is Tsubaki of the Assassin and Ninja races. On Fanfare, choose one of the following effects. 1. Choose an enemy follower, destroy it, or 2. This card gains the Storm keyword effect, allowing it to attack the turn it is played. Not just enemy followers, but also the enemy leader. Nice. Okay, this is starting to sound like my kind of playstyle a bit. Vanguard Lasum seems to just be a high stat vanilla for 2 cost to 3/3. 1, 2, 3 copies of him. Next, Floral Fencer. You can evolve this card for 1 cost. 2 and 3. Next, Assassin. During your main phase, you can pay 1 cost to give this follower Bane. So Bane corresponds to that counter I was wondering about earlier, which I translated as Sure Kill or Death Touch. Basically, after a follower with Bane battles and inflicts damage to an enemy follower, even if that enemy follower has defense remaining, it is destroyed. Very Assassin. 1, 2, and 3. Next, we have White General. It has Storm, and on attack, choose one of your other followers, give it defense +2. That's pretty strong, I think. 3, especially since with Storm, as long as the opponent is an enemy follower, you can trigger it the turn he is played. Ninja Egg, a 1 cost 2/2. This deck is a bit strange. It has a combination of these Shadow Warriors like Assassins, Ninjas, and then perfectly normal Western Medieval Knights and Generals. Veteran Lancer, a 2/2/3 with Ward. 1, 2, Fencer. On Fanfare, choose one of your other followers and give it +1/+1. 1, 2, 3. Oathless Knight can be evolved for 1 cost, and on Fanfare, play a Knight, the token. 1. We still haven't seen that Steel Knight come into play yet. Quick Blader can be evolved for 3 cost and has Storm, so you drop him for 1 and he can instantly go right for that final blow, if the situation calls for it. 2, and I mean no wonder he's called a Quick Blader, man. Next, we have this spell, Weapon Enhancement. It is a 2-cost quick. Choose one of your followers, give it +1/+1, draw 1 card. 1, 2. Next, we have another spell, Onslaught. Choose one enemy follower, deal it 5 damage, and then place a knight in your EX area. We still haven't seen the Steel Knight. Unbridled Fury, a 1-cost quick. Choose one enemy follower and deal it damage equal to the number of followers you have in play. 1, 2, 3, and there we go, that's just a Goblin. 2 copies of him, and next Fighter, just a 2/2/3 neutral vanilla. 1 copy of that, and Angelic Sword Maiden, a neutral angel unit with ward. 1, 2, and we are moving into the evolves. First, we have Floral Fencers Evolve. On Evolve, play a Steel Knight and a Knight. Okay, so that's where the Steel Knights are coming into play. 3 copies of her. Next, Oathless Knights Evolve. Just direct attack. 1, 2, and 3. And finally, Quick Bladers Evolve. Storm on 3/3. I see. So if your opponent leader has like 3 life left, and you have enough play points, you can just bring him out at the end game and finish the battle. And finally, just an Evolved Goblin. Okay, so those were the first 2 Shadowverse Evolve starter decks featuring Elf or Forestcraft and Royal or Swordcraft. Gotta be honest with you guys, after opening up these 2 decks and reading the various effects of the cards, I'm feeling really excited to try out the game myself as someone who's never played Shadowverse before. The next video you can expect from me is a match between these 2 decks before I move on to open the remaining starter decks, so look forward to it. As usual, if you guys enjoyed this video, do give it a like, let me know what you guys think about these new physical rendition of Shadowverse, especially if you are a current digital Shadowverse player. And with that, hope to see you guys in the next Shadowverse video.